Hello everybody. In today's video I'm going to explain a little bit about prep work on an MDF mill pack. A mill pack is an interior trim package of inside your home of all the door jambs, casings, baseboards, crown molding, windows and window casing, and any built-in cabinets are included many times. On these jobs we put on a nice fine finish interior trim paint. Usually satin sheen, sometimes semi-gloss. Years ago we used to do high gloss, and that was good training to make work look really good. It had to turn out nearly perfect. So this trim pack is an MDF mill pack. That stands for medium density fiberboard. So this isn't real wood, it's pressed fibers and glued. A lot of people don't know that on MDF mill packs, that when the carpenter shoots the nails in to install these, it actually swells up the wood around each nail hole, sometimes as big as a nickel and sometimes a quarter. Some MDF wood swells up more than other types of wood because there's several different types and companies that make it. So before I get into the actual filling of the holes, the first step that we do when we walk onto a job site is we want to cover any floors that need to be protected, kept clean of dust, our filler, our shoes. So we have hardwood floor in this house, and we use floor paper, like 3 foot or 4 foot wide brown floor paper. We clean and cover all the floors with that, and we tape up all the edges up to the baseboards, and we tape all the seams so the paper can stay down for a long time. And sometimes these jobs can go on for about a month, especially if we got 2 or 3 painters, or sometimes a 2-man crew. And we end up doing a lot of work. Mill work is a lot of work. So after we have the floor covered, the second step is to prep the actual nail holes. And what you do is you can see little bits of debris that stick out from these nail holes. So you take your small putty knife. I use a 2-inch. I also have a 1.5-inch putty knife that I use on different purposes. You want to scrape down any debris that's sticking out, or there's actually even broken. You'll see the little edge that's broken if you look very, very close. And you can actually break that off with your putty knife before you apply your filler in there. That way you're going to get a nice solid job when you put the filler in. As you're going around breaking these holes, and this happens really fast. I'll show you some slow motion footage of me clearing these of debris real fast. And after we go and do that, you might want to peek at and look around. If you see any dust or any debris, it's a good idea to take a vacuum brush, like this vacuum brush here, and you just want to quickly vacuum out any holes. That way your filler is going to go in there real well, and it won't break out. Because if there's debris or dust inside these holes that you don't dust out, the filler might stay there for a while. And you might be able to prime it and paint it and sand it. But those might pop out even after a week, 2 weeks, or a month after you do the job. We use dust brushes on these jobs a lot of times to do things. Dust brushes seem like they might get the dust out of these holes, but a vacuum cleaner with brush attachment is the best and most efficient way to go about doing it. If you have any nails that are sticking out the tiniest bit even, you've got to set them with a nail set. I really like the spring-loaded nail set, so you can just hold it with 2 hands and pull the spring back and set these nails. And if there's any nails that are even flush, even if your knife doesn't really catch them, but they're flush and you can see they're flush, you want to go ahead and set them in, a small amount, not quite a 1/16 of an inch, because you really want that filler to grab those holes and stay there for a long period of time. And also if the nails are flush, you wouldn't be able to sand down this MDF that's around each nail hole. These nail holes have swell marks around them. It's pretty much impossible to see right now in this phase of the job. But after you get it primed and painted with 2 coats of some satin, trim paint, and a fine finish, and you have a 3,000 square foot house with thousands of nail holes, you get light that comes across things, and they start to show up, and after the paint job is done, that's a really bad thing. Places where there's nail holes that are closer together is going to be swelled up a little more. The nails go in and the wood has to swell up from that pressure. So the wood filler that we're using is Elmer's Carpenter's wood filler. This is interior only. This is a great product. It's a dense product. We call it like a hard fill or a dense fill. If you use it right, it works really well for you. When we use filler, we use 2 putty knives, one to mix it on, and one to hold it and one to apply it, basically. So you just get just the right amount that you need for, say, 5 or 6 holes at a time, and you want to push them in. You want to push it in 2-3 times minimum, something like that. And for this step, you can leave it a little bit proud of you want to float it over, basically. You don't want to skim coat it. If you skim coat it, well, you can skim coat it, but you have mixed results after you're done sanding. Now this wood filler is hard to sand by hand. It takes quite a while, unless you use a rougher grit sandpaper like 180 or even rougher, which, to tell you the truth, for millwork, rough sandpaper does not really work. You really want to use about 220 sandpaper on just about everything. So for this filler, instead of using our hand and sandpaper to sand it, what we do is we take the orbitals, the orbital sanders. I have them hooked up to my Festool vacuum. This is a Festool sander. It's called the ETS EC 125. It's got a 3mm sanding stroke. It's a good medium-sized sanding stroke for aggressiveness, but yet still delivers a fine finish. So after we apply the filler, we'll let it dry for a couple hours. We usually go around and fill the entire floor of the house, if not the whole house, or as much as we can, basically. We try to do as much as you can in one step of the prep on all this stuff. When it comes to caulking, cleaning, masking, you try to take big chunks at once, so you kind of just stay in the same mode. And when we sand, what we do is we sand down this factory primer. It looks smooth, it feels sort of smooth, but this has actually a bit of texture to it. So when we sand, we actually sand down the filler, the primer smooth, and we get into the MDF a little bit, and we actually sand in, so you're going to see bare MDF in order to take that swollen MDF out of there. So we'll go ahead and sand all of it at once with a little more focus on the nail holes, just so we can get through this primer a little bit, and that's going to flatten everything out really nice. And that's what you need in order to get a fine finish millwork. And millwork is typically, you usually need some training on a good crew for quite a while before you become proficient at it. I was probably painting for 4 years and thought I knew almost everything about painting, and then I started doing some real high-end, high-gloss mill packages, and it's like I had to learn how to paint all over again. Every step my friend was telling me that it had to be smoother, had to look better, my caulking had to look better. So there's a lot to learn, and I'm going to make some videos here to try to walk you through some of these processes. And so that's the basic prep work that goes into doing nail holes. I'll walk through some of the other steps in other videos. I'll try to show you some close-ups of all my work. And by the way, when it comes to sanding, I also like to say that I use the Festool. It's a DTS 400. It's the Delta sander, and that's what I'm using to get into smaller areas, the door jambs. I can get in all these areas and in the corners of windows when my orbital won't. And one thing I also forgot to mention is doors come down pretty much before I do any sanding and even filling. I'll go ahead and I'll take all these doors down with my Phillips driver. I'll pop them all off. I'll set them aside to put all the hardware in a bag or a box, and we can then prep the jam out without anything in our way. So, and then I'll be able to use that DTS, and I can sand the whole jam completely. And after the everything's sanded down that first time, we go ahead and we give it all a vacuum with our brush again, our vacuum brush. And we would actually do a second filler because some mill packs, you know, the holes might be a little worse, a little coarse around the edges, and when you hit it with the orbital, sometimes it breaks out a little bit of that. It's going to break out the wood around the hole because we're sanding it down just the tiniest bit, so it opens up that hole the tiniest bit. And what that does is after you spray your paint on there, I mean, it'll look really good, but when you spray your paint, you'll just see little blemishes where the nail holes are. So we want to make those all disappear. So what we'll do is we'll take our Crawford's white spackle. After this has been sanded and cleaned, we'll go ahead and we'll just run some white spackle over the top of these holes with my 1.5" putty knife again, and that gets hand sanded with a sanding sponge by 3M. They're fine sponges, and usually we use them after they've been worn out a little bit, or we call them worn in. So we hand sand all the spackle down, and these corners, we actually want these corners to feel smooth, which is very important. If you just sand the flats and the square spots, you're gonna have these corners that just kind of stick out on you. So second coat of spackle gets sanded, things get vacuumed and cleaned again, and then we go for the caulking. And there's more that follows that, including the masking and setting up doors and sanding them, filler. There's actually spots that need filling, like these joints, any dents and dings and divots, and these get cleaned, and we caulk these panels. So everything gets caulked and it looks seamless. And millwork is supposed to turn out really, really nice with a fine finish. We use a 410 fine finish tip typically, sometimes a 310 on door jambs, baseboards. But I pretty much stick with a 410 because it's going to work good for doors, and it's going to give me a good thin coat of paint. So there's the basic first steps of doing a mill pack, and I'm going to try to show you some good videos as I go along here. So stay tuned, and I'll show you some videos of the different stages of the millwork. And I hope you guys have learned some techniques and tips and put them into practice. And thanks for watching my videos. If you like them, give them a thumbs up, share with your friends, or subscribe to my channel to see more professional painting videos. Thanks for watching.